I'm Brent Harris, and the painting over my shoulder is Plato's Cave No. 4, painting from 2005. It's a painting that's had quite a slow gestation. The idea of using the subject Plato's Cave came to me when I was doing a residency in Singapore at the Singapore Tile Print Institute. The major paper maker there saw in some of the preparatory drawings that I was working on to work on these large paper pulp works, asked me if I'd read Plato's Cave. I said I hadn't, so he photocopied me a version of it and I read that. My reading of the Plato's Cave treatise is there are these prisoners trapped in these special contraptions low down in a cave, and they're just looking at this big blank wall, but behind them is a walkway, and behind that walkway is a source of light. And their total reality is based on what they see of the shadows cast from behind them onto the wall at the end. And it's Plato's reflection on what is reality, what do we believe to be real, and I found that interesting, but it didn't kick in at the time of the making of these works in Singapore. And it wasn't until a year later, when I was back in Melbourne thinking about a new series of works for an exhibition, that I came across two early life drawings. And I'd been working with this one model for about 4 years, and we had this particular light shining on him, and he cast this beautiful sort of shadow, really morphed shadow back behind him, and it, for some reason, more than any other time, this just jumped up at me. So I photographed it and then worked it into this drawing. I started to see in this shadow the portrait of George Dyer that's in the Francis Bacon painting that's in the National Gallery here. And that encouraged me to colour the pastel drawing, to colour the shadow in the blue that the Francis Bacon painting is coloured in. That then led me into thinking that I could work with this model and work with this kind of figuration, this sort of it's a slipping of the figure. It's not direct representation and very much about the shadows. So it allows a lot of speculation as into what you're really looking at, what you're not looking at, what's real, what's not. The proportion of this painting relates directly to a double painting I saw at a Colin McCahon exhibition in Wellington. And I came back to Melbourne very excited about it. I had two pieces of canvas exactly the same size as the McCahon. The two canvases were then painted grey and just sort of sat there. I'd been off to New York and there was a big El Greco exhibition was on. When I got back and looked at my two blank grey canvases, I then decided to work on this background in relation to the El Greco turbulent skies of his. So the background went on first. I called the model back in and we did a shoot more than drawings. I was really interested in the shadows, so I got the model to pose against the wall, and this is one of the shadows that appeared to the side of him. So I was thinking of something for this right-hand side, and on my desk I had the Guston catalogue open at his, I think it's called Green Rug, and it's a painting with a red whip hanging down the right-hand side. I don't know whether it's a whip shape or whether it's a woman's dangling hair, but then I started to think about the figure and the narrative that might surround that figure. I felt that the movement of the figure was suggesting he was stepping into something. This wedge appeared across the bottom edge to sort of ground him and give him sort of a movement that he's stepping over into this space. It's quite a heavy figure. The burden of a life lived is certainly weighing on this figure, and he's moving into the next realm, if you like. Whenever I travel, I go and see exhibitions. My head is stuffed full of imagery and I continually draw on that library of visuals. So I'm quite happy declaring any source material. It's quite amazing for me to come back and have a close look at this painting. There are about 5 coats of blue paint on this surface, and it started with a charcoal drawn line, and I've rubbed it in. So the charcoal drawing was absolutely what you're seeing here before I went with paint, so it's taken quite a bit of work with the rubber to get the line correct. And then with about a 1-inch brush and a paint consistency that's kind of like runny cream, I chase that edge around. This is not painted with masking tape. You can see more of the charcoal at work down here. This white has had maybe 3 coats rather than 5, so you can still see movement in the surface, but you can actually see the charcoal down those edges. The thumb in this picture is a really important part of the space of the painting. It helps to clear the space of the edge of the painting, and which then declares the internal space of the painting. And that thumb didn't actually appear in the shot from the model. That was my addition, and it's sort of that kind of curved sort of shape leading from the thumb up under the armpit is actually my chasing of a line that I used. It's a way of getting feeling into something that is flat, and the way that the curved line works is a way that I get my emotional engagement into the work. You know, I really doubt that I could make that line again.